What's up, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another video. Today's video, I just kind of wanted to discuss one of the best toy companies out right now as far as 3 and 3/4 inch figures go, and just in general. I don't really hear a whole lot of people talking about JoyToy. I know they're a relatively newer company. They have been doing some figures for a few years. I want to say like 4 or 5 years, something like that. I'm estimating, and that's relatively new when it comes to making toys, though. And I believe they started off with some of their earlier mechs, which Strident actually turned me on to checking out, and kind of fell in love with the company itself. They had some growing pains. We all know the growing pains that they've had with some quality control concerns. But as far as turnover goes, I gotta say, with their quality control, JoyToy has been getting better and better, and knowing that they can't fix every little issue overnight, they decide to, if something breaks, hey, give them more of something that breaks. If a knee joint snaps, give them an extra knee joint so they can just replace it. It's just that simple. And I can't believe that in this day and age, in 2020, more companies aren't following suit with that and making action figures more modular. When you think about it, it just makes sense. It really does. And the fact that other companies haven't picked up on this yet, I just think it's silly. I know you have other companies like Marauders, and they'll replace parts for you. But as far as getting parts, replacement parts with your figures, SH Figure Arts started that. Same thing with Reveltech and Figma. They'd always give you extra joints with your figures because they're higher quality figures. And with prices going up with other toy lines, you would think that you would want that quality with all of your toys. I'm not saying give a replacement joint for every single joint, and some of the anatomies of other figures are different, but I'm just saying the modularity of the figures is still there when they're assembled. So you could make them easier to take apart, stuff like that, interchangeable with other figures in that line. I'm not saying cross brand it and everyone should have the same molds and everything. While that would be convenient for us collectors, it's not realistic at the end of the day. Different companies are going to do their own thing. Like just speaking on 3 and 3/4 inch, Dime Novel Legends are not going to have the same anatomy. They'll have something similar to Marauders and JoyToy and stuff like that, and G.I. Joe, but it's essentially going to be different at the end of the day because they are just their own company. They want to do things their own way, and I can't knock a company for wanting to do something different. Same thing with the Locker Toys Zombie Lab figures, which I actually think were bought out by Locker. No, I can't remember who. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, we're starting to see more and more of figures like this, and I'm trying to stay on target here, but we're starting to see more and more figures like this done with these highly detailed sets that are coming out. And I think JoyToy found their niche when it comes to, military action figures and such. Action figures just in general. They found how to do it their way and do it correctly. They listen to fans. They listen to customers, whatever you want to call us. And I got to give the devil his due, or I got to, call it like I see it. When I see a company doing something right, I need to give them props just as much as when I see a company doing some, shady, shitty antics, I got to call them out on that too. So to me, it just makes sense to actually finally give a company its props. I tend to give Marauders a lot of props, and I think JoyToy deserves the exact same thing. The majority of their figures are modular. They're easy to work with. Yeah, you have to use the typical hair dryer method with a lot of the figures nowadays. I mean, even a Marvel Legend, I take a hair dryer to, regardless of whether it's gonna break or not. It's just what I do. It's kind of a habit now. I also wash all my figures before I get them, but that's every figure I get. I clean them, even before the whole pandemic shit happened, because you don't know where those toys have been. So you don't know if someone wiped their ass and then touched them toys. You don't know. So anyway, but I'm not trying to sound like OCD or a clean freak or something, but it's just the way it is for me. Anyway, the JoyToy figures, I want to say, like I said, when the first wave of figures came out, as far as the action figures go, not the mechs, even the mechs had some quality control concerns with joints snapping, joints not staying pegged in properly or deep enough. The peg joints were not deep enough for the peg holes, so that was kind of an issue. Same thing goes with some of the neck joints on some of the action figures. The neck ball pegs were kind of shallow, and the necks would fall off of the peg. But that's with some of the figures. Also, paint rubbage issues. We all know that from the Russian Federation figures and some of the earlier other figures that they had. As far as the West Asian figures, some of them had some paint rubbing issues. I've seen them on other people's, but I've not had any issues with mine. I think the only one I had any paint issues with was the Russian Federation Peter figure. And it was with the robotic arm he had, because he's a cyborg. Other than that, I really have not had any issues other than maybe a couple hand joints that are not properly pegged in, and then you'll see at the wrist joint where they're supposed to articulate, whether it's up and down or left and right at the wrist, you'll see that the joint itself is like kind of warped and they don't peg in properly, but you do get a plethora of other hands to suffice the sacrifice of the quality control concern. So it's kind of like a QC issue, but then it's not, because you have a replacement. Now, granted, some of the hands that you do get are different motions. Like they'll have like a flat hand for doing signal calling. They'll have the two fingers sticking out. They'll have a fist hand. And while, those don't really work as substitutes for a hand that's warped or anything like that, for, let's say, the gripping hand, you want to have him two-hand his rifle, they'll have an issue with that. If the hand is warped and you want to replace it with like a fist hand, you can't really two-hand the gun anymore, naturally. But I want to say the other thing that it could improve on, as far as QC issues go, is fixing some of the pistols. Their pistols are not necessarily my favorite as far as how they look. They look a little bit non-realistic. And I don't mean non-realistic in the fact of their concept or their design. I mean in the fact that they're actually, like, they look like kind of like cardboard guns in their hands. They're flat, they're too skinny, and it just looks weird. And they don't holster right sometimes in some of the team sets. It's like the holsters on them are too large for the pistol because they're so skinny. So I'd like to see a little bit girthier pistol, and a little bit more love for the paint applications for those, because some of the paint on some of the pistols do rub off after being in the holsters too long. And I think that has to do with some of the paint, quality control with the paint. And then it has to do with the rubbery plastics kind of going from hot to cold, cold to hot. And then you try to pull it out and it gets stuck in the holster a little bit because it was a little hot maybe. And it pulls the paint off the gun. So obviously you don't want to keep your figures going from hot to cold. That's not good, period. But it's naturally going to happen unless you always have the AC on in the summer and the heat on at the right temperature in the winter. It's going to have some sort of fluctuation. It's just going to be a part of the growing pains. I don't know exactly. The other concern I have is I don't know how well these will hold up in time. They do use a different style plastic. It's like I want to say it's a little bit more of a, what's the term I could use? They don't really use too many rubbery plastics, except for maybe like the hands, the gun holsters, and the holsters themselves, the tack vests, the stuff that you can take off of them. But the bodies themselves are a harder plastic. So I don't want to say, ward anyone off from, trying to buy one of these. Is what I'm trying to just do is give you my honest, objective opinion. Harder plastics break down and they crack over time if you continuously use them. And, 10 years down the line, who knows, 12, 15 years down the line, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot tell the future, but harder plastics always don't hold up too well. There are exceptions to the rules. Some G.I. Joe vintage figures still are holding up. They got their own issues too with O-rings and crappy metal barbell waist joints that just disintegrate. So there's none of those issues here, but every figure has its own issues. I bet you a lot of Marvel Legends in the future are probably going to have warpage issues with their knees and legs from being too rubbery. But that'll probably take a longer time with rubbery plastic. The mechs themselves. Now, I love the mechs. It's originally what got me into the line were the mechs and the little pilots that came with them. And I love playing Titanfall and Titanfall 2. I thought Titanfall 2 was the step in the right direction. And I don't know if we're ever going to get another Titanfall game, to be honest with you. But I love Titanfall 2, and it's one of my favorite games to play. To be honest with you, when I'm bored, I will play Titanfall 2, to be honest with you, or Ghost Recon Wildlands. That's what I do. It's a lot of fun to play those games for myself, and regardless of whether you agree or disagree with that, I don't really care. It's what I like. So, but the mechs are really awesome. I really enjoy them. The Friedman mech is an awesome mech, a little bit more on the simplistic side. There's two different versions. There's the blue version, which you see right here, and then there's the tan version, which I actually own. I have the tan one, so I don't really need the blue one. I was actually throwing around ideas if I should maybe pick up the blue one and pair it up with, I like to call him not Blue Falcon, but just Blue Jay, because it's just that simple. And just pair him as the mech pilot for that. I think that would work really well with him. Not every figure has to match their fucking vehicle either. But, I just think it's a nice little pairing. No big deal at the end of the day. I could just pair him with somebody else, but whatever. The other thing I would like to see improved on is more female characters. And you see one right here. And this is the Crossfire Fox A figure. They don't have names, really. It's just Fox A and Fox B. I like to call Fox B Foxy. I don't know. I'm joking, actually, when I say that. But I like to think of them as sisters. And and I like to build up my own lore for these figures. But I'd like to see more female characters. I mean, we don't get a whole lot. I mean, even in the teams that we get, all these different teams that we've been getting from JoyToy, and there's no female characters in any of these teams. Like, that seems a little silly to me that we're not getting that. We might start to get it with some of the figures in the future. I think there's the Red Skull exosuit looking dudes. There's one that's a female. So that's a nice breath of fresh air. But I'd like to see, I mean, hell, even if they gave us a whole team full of females, that would be amazing. I would love that. But more female characters, please. That would be fantastic. A lot of people I see are asking for, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but a few people that I've seen on the Instagram JoyToy page have actually been requesting more modern style, current BDUs and current style teams. And I'm like, maybe you could do that with like a single figure. But some of the teams I want to see more and more futuristic Titanfall-esque characters. That would be nice. Nicer, I should say. So I think I would appreciate that more if we got the teams. Well, at least for right now, I would appreciate more futuristic looking teams as opposed to the realistic looking ones that we've been getting, like the Force Recon team and the PLA Field Force team and the U.S. Marine Corps team and the, the plethora of different teams, the SEAL Team 6 team. There's a lot of realistic looking teams. So, I mean, if you haven't gotten your fill of that yet, I don't know what the hell to tell you. But it'd be nice to see more of like what we're getting with the 3-packs with the Hell's Forces, the Skull Force 3-pack team. I love the PLA 3-pack. Don't get me wrong, the Marine 3-pack, but and it'd be nice to see actually some more countries represented. Like, I'd like to see maybe some sort of Australian special forces, some more of South African special forces, stuff like that. How about an SAS team? I've been dying for an SAS team forever, and we have not got one. And I would just love that representation. Just give us a friggin' all black decked out SAS team or blue decked out SAS team. That would be fantastic. We just have not gotten things like that. I'd like a bunch of different options in the future, and not just a bunch of United States teams. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably clamoring for some generals and stuff. I think that would be pretty cool. I guess it wouldn't bother me too much if we got some uniformed people. So I don't know. I guess that's an idea. But for the most part, I'd like I said, I'd like to see more Titanfall-esque designs, some more futuristic looking designs, and that would be nice. I don't really have, like I said, I don't have too many gripes. I just wanted to point out some of the good and some of the bad. There's way more good to go around than the bad. And I think that's something that needs to be said more often, because, I mean, it's easy to hate, but it's I guess it's harder for a lot of people, not me, but it's harder for a lot of people to say positive stuff. And that's a real goddamn shame, because there's companies like this that you can tell have a real passion to make really good action figures and make them look really good. These figures are definitely like custom action figure quality figures that I would see that would be one of a kind type figures. And that's why I think it's really worthwhile that if you're new to JoyToy, you don't know anything about them, to really give this company a good damn look and maybe just pick up one figure and see if you like it. If you don't have to buy another one, but give them a chance, or at least watch a review of a JoyToy figure. Pick up one of the mechs. Try one of the mechs. I mean, I know most of their mechs. There's only one 1/18 scale mech in the Friedman mech, but you could try one of the 1/25th scale mechs. I put my 1/25th scale mechs with my 1/18 scale mechs, and I think they work fine. They're a little bit shorter than the 1/18th scale mech, but I still think they fit in, and you could use your imagination like I do, which is I like to think of those as used for, small people. Small people use those mechs because small people exist in the world. Maybe we could give them a role in a military, futuristic concept, military, fictitious universe, or you could just use them as robotic drones where they're being controlled by one of your team members or something like that. That could be a role for one of your teams. But to me, the JoyToy universe, I pin my own JoyToy universe up against the Acid Rain figures. Because to me, the Acid Rain figures, they look kind of funky, They look like they look like either robots or aliens, and they don't really have. They have kind of like long arms sometimes. They look kind of crusty and like they've been rolling around in shit or mud when they do have a humanoid face sculpt. But for the most part, they look kind of alien-esque. So I like to just do the simplistic thing of aliens and cyborgs and robots versus humans and their mechs and the simplistic design that is almost the Matrix. But that's just me. That's what I like to do with my universe. There's a couple other concepts, ideas that I've been working with that I might use, but I'm still in the process of getting more bad guys for my JoyToy universe too. So I always like to have more bad guys than good guys. I want the good guys to have to work for it, not just get everything cool, that all the good guys get all the cool shit and it's easier for them, because that's boring. Who gives a shit? What's the what's the big deal if they have everything and they can just wipe the enemy off the face of the map, There's no real sacrifice, or they're not really working for much if that's the case. So for me, I like to have them a little bit more subdued. Not too subdued where it's boring, but subdued enough where the enemy is. I do the same thing with like look at Cobra. Like Cobra's got to be ahead of GI Joe, and they have to have the numbers over GI Joe. That's why GI Joe's got to be the elite of the elite, and they compile all these elite people together, and that's how they win, by using their skills and their tactics. But that's what I want to do with this JoyToy universe. It's definitely separate from the G.I. Joe universe. It has nothing to do with my G.I. Joe universe, and has nothing to do with the Sweet 16 universe or Fenner's Company's universe or anything like that. So that's all different from each other. They're all kind of just separate things. But not saying that you can't use these figures for your G.I. Joe universe. I think that if you put these figures up next to your G.I. Joe figures, you're going to notice a huge difference in quality, though. The heads are you can swap G.I. Joe heads onto a JoyToy figure's head body, but I don't know why you would want to do something like that, because the JoyToy heads just fit those bodies so well. I think it's almost a goddamn crying shame that you would want to swap a less detailed head onto a more detailed body. It just doesn't look right. I've seen them done a few times, unless maybe you're using like one of the Pursuit of Cobra heads, which I think have the most detail, or one of the 30th anniversary heads. But either way, JoyToy gives you options. If you wanted to do that, you can. If that doesn't bother you, personally, I wouldn't do it, but JoyToy is also its own universe. So, or I like to call it the Dark Source universe. But I like some of the lore. Some of the lore is pretty cool. We've been getting a little bit of it. I just kind of, like I said, like to make up my own. Most of these characters don't even have names, if any. I'll use maybe a code name that's given here and there. Like, I'm never going to use Blue Falcon because I know what that means. I know what Blue Falcon means. It means to fuck over the rest of your team. It means a guy that's out for himself and is selfish and only cares about himself and will fuck over somebody. I call it a buddy fucker, a BF, a Blue Falcon. So I don't call him Blue Falcon. Like I said, I call him Blue Jay. It's just that much simpler that all they had to do was name him something else. But anyway, yeah, I just kind of want to make this quick video. I don't want to go on forever, but I just want to make this quick video and just my off the top of my head thoughts of JoyToy as a company. I'd like down the line, while this line has a little bit more time to gain momentum and for people to gain awareness of these figures, that I'd like to do like a collaboration video with some of the other content creators. Or even if it's just me and Strident doing a video talking about them, that'd be cool too. But I'd like to get a bunch of people together and kind of chat about JoyToy and just kind of geek out about it a little bit. That'd be a lot of fun. But for now, these are just my thoughts, and I'd like to know yours in the comments below if you'd like to share them. That's kind of why we do this thing that is YouTube, is to discuss things with each other and talk about the figures that we love inside this small community that I have. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And thank you for listening as always. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.